Oh, Investigations 2. One of my favorite parts about this game is how important every case is to the overall plot. There is almost no filler, and anytime there is, it's great. And no case shows this off better than the Grand Turnabout. The concept for this case is really insane. The president from the beginning of the game is found crushed in a set of giant cow footprints from the movie monster Moozilla, and you begin your search for who killed him. And along the way, you run into everyone in the game and uncover the president's dark past. If you wanted a model for how to do final cases, the Grand Turnabout is a perfect starting mold. Every single character in the game, with a few exceptions from cases 2 and 3, all appear in this case. And the case brilliantly connects itself to the other cases. Just look at this character web. This is insanity. And nothing shows this off better than the villain. The main villain of this game, holy crap, Simon Keyes. Out of any character in the case, Simon Keyes is who I least expected to be the instigator of cases 2 and 3 and the murder of Di Hung Huang. Oh yeah, he's also the son of Dane Gustav, which is how this connects to the Inherited Turnabout. Sebastian and Courtney also get huge development, with Courtney revealing that she is the mother of a suspect, John Marsh, and Sebastian finally standing up to his father. And Edgeworth also learns that he'd rather stay on the prosecuting side of the law. Ray returns to the agency, and Gumshoe gets a raise. I don't know what more I can say about this case. It has some really incredible turnabouts, like the president being the body double of the real president. And the gameplay moments are really fun too, with Little Thief getting its best moments in the series. And the juggling act between the murder, character development, and wrapping up previous cases is something even Simon would struggle with. It is a great finale to a great game. But I'm not done with you, Investigations 2. As you can tell, there are a lot of final cases on this list. It's not because the middle cases are bad, but the final cases include the most character development and the most epic moments in each game. But this is easily my favorite non-final case in the series, the Inherited Turnabout. Concept-wise alone, this case is my favorite in the whole series. The idea is that Ray and Miles go to an exhibit involving Chef Jeff Masters. The exhibit is around a contest that happened 18 years ago, and that contest ended in a murder that Gregory Edgeworth defended. That's right, this is Gregory Edgeworth's last case before DL6, and it is phenomenal. The case flips between Ray telling Edgeworth about the past and solving a different case in the future, and the game brilliantly mixes these two cases together. The parallels that Edgeworth has to his father emphasizes his connection to a defense attorney. And I know I've talked about this a whole lot of time, but Edgeworth's personal dilemma in the game is one of my favorite in the series, and this case perfectly brings that struggle into light. Gameplay-wise, this case is pretty good too. It has my favorite logic chess moment in the game, and the Little Thief is used surprisingly well. And some of the contradictions are off-the-wall bonkers. And the ending of this case almost brings tears to my eyes. Edgeworth finally finds the true killer, but Catherine Hall can still be convicted by obstruction of justice. But Ray still decides to defend her, and it is so heartwarming and really brings out Ray's personality. And going back to finally release Jeff Masters from jail after 18 years is the closest any game has ever got me to crying. I will not go too much more in depth for people who haven't watched my LP, but this case is able to go toe-to-toe with some of the most famous and popular final cases. And for a basically filler case in Investigations, that's a pretty great deal. Does this count as a final case? I don't know, I want the Inherited Turnabout to have that glory. Rise from the Ashes. Rise from the Ashes is a bunch of firsts in the series. It was the first case built with the DS in mind. It was the first added case to the game. It was the first case not to involve the word turnabout in it. And probably the thing most people remember, it is still the longest Ace Attorney case ever. 3 investigations and 7 trials long. And while that's most people's criticism of this case, I still love it. The case starts with Emma Skye asking Phoenix to defend an old friend of Mia, Lana. Lana is pleading guilty, but the pieces just don't seem to fall in together. and as the trials progress, less and less things start to make sense. There's some kind of SL9 incident that everyone in the case was involved with. There's some kind of huge blackmailing ring going on. Oh yeah, and the victim was murdered in 2 locations at the same time. You heard me correctly. Same person, killed in 2 places at the same time. So if you couldn't tell, this case is ridiculous. And there are several things I love about this case. For one, the puzzles are really cool. For being the first DS exclusive case, they went all out. You can do things like matching fingerprints and looking for bloodstains, etc. And these puzzles are a nice change of pace, even though they may not be staples in the series. And the fact that this case came after the trilogy means there are a whole load of references and details that connect to later cases in the series, which made my second playthrough of the case even better. And this case also forces you to think 2 steps ahead of you. Even when you figured out the murderer, things are not done yet. And let's go on about the characters of this case. Jake Marshall, the cowboy police officer, is one of my favorite one-off characters. I love his personality, and he really does have good emotion with him. And the new assistant Emma is so adorable, and when you have to accuse her of killing Neil Marshall, it is so emotional and difficult because you grow to love her so much. And of course, how can I talk about this case without at least mentioning Damon Gant? He is one of my favorite villains in the series, and he is the only person I did not see coming as the killer. And the speech he has at the end of the case fleshes out his motive and personality. So while Rise from the Ashes may be long, I was consistently invested and interested. It has some of the most epic moments in the series, probably my favorite investigations in the franchise, and it is extremely well contained, showing how Phoenix and Edgeworth were affected by Turnabout goodbyes. And speaking of that case... how could I not talk about Turnabout goodbyes from the first game? Just how? While the other cases in the first game are great, Turnabout Goodbye sets the most trends, was the most memorable, and has the most character development of any case in the series. Edgeworth is the one accused of murder in this case, and since no one is willing to defend him, Phoenix comes to his aid. And when the prosecuting legend Manfred von Karma takes over the case, it becomes slightly more difficult. Especially when Edgeworth is having nightmares about the DL6 incident, the case that involved the death of his father that resulted in countless lives ruined. This is probably the most intense the series becomes. Choosing to defend Edgeworth is a decision that I think no one objected to playing their first time through this case. And despite how hopeless this case seems, with Edgeworth being on a boat and everything, it is still an extremely intense trial. Even when a guilty verdict is passed, the case is not over. And Manfred von Karma is a perfect villain. This is the main case that he gets to shine, and I hate him so much. And that is a good thing. He is so despicable and heartless that I should not like him for any reason. Which is why he is the most effective killer in the entire series, and why taking him down is so satisfying. Honestly, the DL6 trial is what seals this case high on my list. This case has been foreshadowed throughout the entire game, and finding out the truth is a huge payoff. And pinning the blame on Von Karma at the end is so amazing and unforgettable, and it gives me goosebumps every time. This case also has some huge character development. We get to see Phoenix take on an entire case without Mia by his side. And the entire story of the class trial is finally told, showing off his motives of being a lawyer. We also get to see Maya making her hard decision of leaving Phoenix to become a spirit medium. We see Gumshoe work so hard to get Edgeworth off the hook, and obviously, Edgeworth's true colors start to show. Why he became a prosecutor, why he hates defense attorneys, and why he trusts Von Karma. It is such a great character arc, and this case is why everyone loves him so much. Everything about this case is just perfect. So many characters get huge development, the courtroom segments are some of the most intense in the entire series, it has a wonderful villain, it has a ton of epic moments, and it showed everyone what the Ace Attorney series was striving to do. But I think there is one case that does all of that and more. Any big-time Ace Attorney fan knows I am excluding Justice for All. And that is for good reason. The first case is my least favorite first case in the series. Reunion and Turnabout is alright, but extremely forgettable. And the less I talk about Turnabout Big Top, the better. I was seriously considering not finishing this game because it lost all that was great about the first game. But it does have one redeeming factor, and that redeeming factor is the best case in the entire franchise. Everyone, farewell my Turnabout. There is no doubt in my mind that Farewell My Turnabout is as perfect as an Ace Attorney case will ever be. This case plays around with a scenario I always wondered. What if Phoenix defends the murderer? You always just assume that the defendant is innocent, no questions asked. But Farewell My Turnabout takes this idea and rams it up to 11. The case starts off with two new TV shows batting heads, that being the Nickel Samurai and the Jammin' Ninja. Huge disdain begins between both main stars, Matt Ungard and Juan Carita. And after Carita is mysteriously murdered, Matt is accused. And if that wasn't enough, someone called The Killer has kidnapped Maya and will only release her if Phoenix gets a complete acquittal. This leads Phoenix into court defending most likely a guilty man of something. But right before the trial, Francisca is shot in the shoulder by The Killer, and without a prosecution, Matt would go free. But never fear. Edgeworth comes to cover for Francisca and takes over the trial, and with that, court is underway. Phoenix starts to look towards one possible guilty party, specifically Adrian Andrews, Matt's manager, who found Juan's body. And once she's put on the spot, Adrian confesses to wearing a Nickel Samurai suit and putting Matt's knife into Juan Carita's body to frame Matt. But her story just doesn't fit with her being the murderer. So the courtroom segment ends and it's really a coin toss between Adrian and Ungard. Edgeworth happens to see a playing card that Adrian found in Juan's room, which allows Edgeworth to figure out the real killer. Shelly the Killer, an assassin for hire that seems to be the same killer that kidnapped Maya. And with all of that out of the way, there's only one thing left. Who hired the killer? Yep, Matt Ungard is the hirer. He just sits there, taunting you. You can't quit on Ungard because if he's found guilty, Maya is dead. And leading into the final trial, Phoenix is prepared for a choice. Does he let Adrian get a guilty verdict, or have Maya killed by Shelly the Killer? And Gumshoe promises to search for Maya during the entire trial, so Phoenix and Edgeworth attempt to drag the trial for as long as they can. It even reaches the point where they get Shelly the Killer on the phone in court. But all paths eventually lead to one choice. Edgeworth forfeits the prosecution and leaves Phoenix with the same impossible decision, allowing the player to choose guilty or not guilty. Just let that sink in for a moment. Regardless of which choice you choose, Francisca comes bursting with the final piece of evidence. One of which is a VHS tape which shows a video of Shelly killing Juan Carita. This tape was recorded by Matt so he could blackmail the killer if he needed to. And upon hearing that his client is against him, Shelly venges to kill Matt if he leaves the courtroom. Matt begs for a guilty verdict, Maya is released, and everything is a great setup for trials and tribulations. I think that summary explains everything. This case takes the formula of Ace Attorney and flips it on its head. It has some of the most intense, scary, and creative moments the series has ever had. This case could have gone so wrong. If the intense moments did not hit the mark, this case would have been a horrible execution. But everything is done perfectly. The idea of defending a guilty person will never be done again in the series, just because of Farewell My Turnabout. Another thing I love about this case is its sense of choice. One common criticism to the Ace Attorney games is how linear they are. Most cases you can just keep pressing and objecting until everything smooths itself out. I constantly felt like the case would never end well, and that everything would not be all happy in the end. Giving the player a choice between two equally bad choices is a perfect way to show this less linearity. And losing the case at certain points in the trial even ends with an alternate ending, in which Adrian is found guilty and Maya is nowhere to be found. Getting this ending shows how much more important this case is than any others in the series. I am so glad that I played Justice for All, because if I didn't, I would not be able to experience this marvelous final case. It hits perfect emotion, gameplay, characters, and intensity. Even if you know how this case ends, the journey is way more important than the destination. Farewell My Turnabout is the most memorable case in the series, and is easily my favorite case in all of Ace Attorney. This has been CryptoMan2000, and thank you so much for watching Ace Attorney Month. See you all next time. Bye.